Welcome to the podcast about venture capital, where investors and founders alike can learn how VCs make decisions and reach conviction. Your host is Nick Moran, and this is The Full Ratchet.
Welcome to another special release of Investor Stories. On this installment, the experts discuss a startup that they did not invest in, why they passed, and if there was a key learning that now informs their approach. Here's the segment called Why I Passed. On today's special segment, we have Ben Wiener of JumpSpeed. Ben, can you tell us a story about a good or a bad pass? A story about a startup that you passed on?
So I think my best pass turned into one of my best investments. You mentioned Breezometer. If you have an Apple iPhone, if you go to your weather app on the iOS in the United States and scroll down, you'll see air quality information powered by Breezometer. JumpSpeed was the first investor in Breezometer here in Jerusalem a bunch of years ago, one of my very first investments, and it came off of passing on them. So they had been running around town. They were in a program here in Jerusalem, the two founders, and they were pitching a B2C paid app for like moms with asthmatic kids to like measure the air quality. And nobody was investing in that, including me. And I had made this commitment as a founder, before I became an investor. I hated the fact that VCs like often just didn't get back to me, which is less the case today, but it still happens. And I committed that any founder to this day that meets with Ben Wiener is getting an email. Usually it's going to be no, and it's going to be a no with reasons. Like, here's why it's not for me. It's not you, it's me, and it's outside of my sweet spot. So I wrote Breezometer, what I call my $1 million pass email in the spring of 2014. Like, hey guys, it's not for me. I don't do B2C. I don't do paid apps. Like, good luck. And they wrote back saying, hey, you're the first person to give us feedback on this. We have this other idea. And that was Breezometer today. And a year later, they were in the White House because the White House had named them the most promising startup in the world. So they went from the garbage heap to the most promising startup in the world. And I was fortunate enough to write them the pass email that unlocked, again, don't get me wrong, I'm not taking credit for what they built. And I said to them, you better be going in this direction anyway. I'm not guaranteeing you that I'm going to invest if you go the B2B route, but they ended up switching gears after my email. And I was able to put in the first $50,000 check to get the company started. And boy, was that a good investment. They're the world leader in air quality data around the globe. And it all started here in a little office in Jerusalem. So that was a pass that turned into a huge, huge win for me.
Love it. We've got a mantra here at Newstack that we have to turn no's into yeses. And I love it that those founders turned a no from you into a yes. On today's special segment, we have TX Zhuo of Fika Ventures. TX, tell us a story about a startup that you passed on. Good or a bad pass?
This was a very painful one. And if he's listening and he's going to laugh at me. So I was the lead investor and board member of a company called GYFT, GYFT, that ended up selling to First Data, and sort of through the acquisition and post-acquisition stayed very close to the founders. And when the founders started a new company, which is a company called Step, that's mobile banking for teens, we were the first phone call just because of the founder relationship that we had. And at that point, I think we couldn't get comfortable with the valuation of the company because it was very early and ended up passing on the investment. I think it was a big regret I think in our job, we're looking for as many data points to validate that this founder would be successful. And arguably I had 6 years of working with the founder. So that should have been all the data points I needed. And I think what we were talking about was a 15-20% difference in valuation. So I don't think that really matters if the company is wildly successful. So that was a bad mistake on our end.
On today's special segment, we have Sara Zulkosky of Recast Capital. Sara, can you tell us a story about a good or a bad pass, a story about a fund that you passed on?
Sure. So this really goes back to one of the core tenets at Recast that we're looking for differentiation. I cannot get excited about an opportunity where there isn't a clear thesis and one in which it's clear that your team is the right one to execute. A funny example of this is, when we get pitched that we have proprietary deal flow from Stanford. Thinking, how did that work? But we've actually heard that a few times. And, while obviously Stanford is a well-respected institution and they generate amazing entrepreneurs doing amazing things, many investors have access to that network. And so that to us is not perhaps a differentiated or proprietary source of deal flow, right? That can't be what sets you apart. But that one, is one that we go back to as an example often. It's one that also makes us laugh, frankly.
Be differentiated.
Be differentiated, yes.
That will conclude this installment of Investor Stories. If you're enjoying the program and would like to see it continue, take a moment and leave a 5-star review in iTunes. Also, if you'd like updates on new content from TFR, as well as the top 10 VC articles every week, go to fullratchet.net and sign up for the newsletter. Okay, that will wrap things up for today. Until next time, over-prepare, choose carefully, and invest confidently. Thanks for joining me.